r/pettyrevenge husband called me irresponsible teen mom, so I exposed his affair. Husband called me irresponsible teen mom, so I exposed his affair. The words hit me like a slap across the face, but this time I didn't flinch. This time, I memorized every syllable. Sorry we're late, my husband Derek announced to his parents as we walked into their dining room, our 2-year-old Emma on my hip and 4-year-old Jake trailing behind us. Little Miss Irresponsible teen mom here couldn't get her act together again. His mother laughed, actually laughed, while his father just shook his head with that familiar look of disappointment. I felt my cheeks burn as I settled Emma into her high chair, my hands trembling slightly as I avoided eye contact with everyone at the table. I'm 24, Derek, I said quietly, the same response I'd given 100 times before. And I was getting Emma changed because she had a blowout. Always an excuse, he muttered, loud enough for everyone to hear. This is why I have to travel so much for work. Someone has to be the responsible adult in this family. I wanted to scream. I wanted to list everything I'd accomplished that day, the laundry, the grocery shopping, the pediatrician appointment I'd managed solo while he was in meetings, the birthday gift I'd wrapped for his mother because he'd forgotten until this morning. Instead, I helped Jake with his napkin and smiled politely when his aunt asked about my little part-time job at the local library, as if my degree in library science was just a cute hobby. This had become our routine. Derek would make some comment about my supposed immaturity or irresponsibility, usually in front of an audience, and I'd shrink a little more each time. When had I become this person? When had I started believing that maybe he was right? Remember when you were Emma's age, Derek? His mother chimed in, cutting her pot roast. I could barely keep up with you. I don't know how she manages 2 little ones. For a moment, I felt a flicker of hope. Finally, someone was. Well, Mom, you were also 22 when you had me, not pushing 30 and still acting like a teenager, Derek interrupted, reaching for the wine bottle. Some people mature faster than others. The hope died instantly. I was 24, not pushing 30, but correcting him again would only make things worse. His family nodded along like this made perfect sense, like I was indeed some kind of delayed adolescent who trapped their successful son with babies and responsibility. The worst part? 6 months ago, I might have defended myself. I might have pointed out that I managed our entire household, that I'd been the one to wake up every single night when the kids were sick, that I somehow kept everything running smoothly despite his constant criticism. But 6 months of being called immature, irresponsible, and childish had worn me down to nothing. As Derek launched into a story about his latest business trip to Chicago, how exhausting it was to be the sole breadwinner, how he barely had time to grab dinner with his colleagues, I found myself studying his face. When had he become so cruel? When had the man who used to tell me I was the strongest person he knew started treating me like I was his teenage daughter instead of his wife? I bounced Emma on my lap and made the appropriate responses at the right moments, playing the role of the scattered young mother who was lucky to have such a patient, hard-working husband. If only I'd known then what I'd discover 3 days later in his laptop bag. Everything was about to change. The discovery happened by complete accident, which somehow made it worse. Derek had rushed out that Tuesday morning for another emergency client meeting in Milwaukee, leaving his laptop bag behind in his frantic scramble to catch an earlier flight. 20 minutes later, his assistant Sarah called asking if he had the Morrison contract files with him. He left his bag, I told her, bouncing Emma while Jake played with his trucks nearby. Should I look for the files and email them to you? Oh, would you? That would be amazing. He really needs them for the 2 o'clock meeting. I'd been in Derek's laptop dozens of times before, paying bills, booking family flights, completely normal wife things. He'd never been secretive about his password, probably because he assumed little Miss Irresponsible teen mom wouldn't be tech-savvy enough to find anything suspicious. He wasn't wrong. I was just looking for work files. But when I opened his email to send the Morrison documents to Sarah, a notification popped up from his personal Gmail account. A message preview that made my blood freeze. Asterisk missing you already baby. Last night was incredible. Can't wait until your next business trip face blowing a kiss asterisk. The sender, amanda.morrison.designs@gmail.com. My hand started shaking so violently I nearly dropped the laptop. Morrison. Like the Morrison contract Sarah needed. Like the client Derek had been visiting monthly for the past year. I stared at that message preview for what felt like hours but was probably 30 seconds. There had to be an explanation. Maybe it was spam. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe. I clicked on his personal Gmail. The inbox was full of them. Months and months of messages from Amanda. Photos that made my stomach turn. Plans for business trips that lined up perfectly with Derek's travel schedule. Messages talking about weekend getaways I'd helped him pack for, believing he was working. But the worst part wasn't the affair itself. The worst part was reading Amanda's messages about me. Asterisk, did you tell your little wifey you'd be late tonight? Face with tears of joy asterisk. Asterisk, I can't believe she doesn't suspect anything. Does she really think you work that much? Asterisk. And Derek's responses, each one a knife to my chest. Asterisk, she's too busy playing house to notice. I married a child, Amanda. Sometimes I feel more like her father than her husband. Asterisk. Asterisk, she asked me yesterday if I was okay because I seemed distant. I almost laughed. How would she even know? She lives in her own little world of diapers and Disney movies. Asterisk. Asterisk, trust me, babe, we don't have to worry about her figuring anything out. She can barely manage to get dinner on the table on time. Asterisk. I slammed the laptop shut and ran to the bathroom, barely making it before I threw up. Emma's confused crying from the living room snapped me back to reality, and I stumbled out to comfort her with tears streaming down my face. This had been going on for over a year. A full year of Derek coming home from his business trips and treating me like I was an incompetent teenager, while he was actually with her. Amanda, who thought it was hilarious that I packed his suitcases and ironed his shirts for their romantic getaways. Every cruel comment, every public humiliation, every time he'd made me feel small and stupid, it had all been projection. He'd been cheating on me while simultaneously convincing me, his family, and our friends that I was the problem in our marriage. Jake tugged on my pajama pants. Mommy sad? I wiped my eyes and picked him up, holding both my babies close. Mommy's okay, sweetheart. But I wasn't okay. I was something else entirely. I was angry. And Derek had no idea what was coming. That night, I did something I hadn't done in months, I thought strategically. After putting the kids to bed, I sat at our kitchen table with a cup of tea that had gone cold hours ago, staring at Derek's laptop. He called twice asking me to overnight it to his hotel, but I'd told him FedEx was already closed. A lie that rolled off my tongue so easily it scared me. I needed time to process this. More importantly, I needed time to plan. Because here's what I realized as I scrolled through months of Derek's messages with Amanda. I wasn't just angry about the affair. I was furious about everything else. Every time he'd called me immature in front of his coworkers. Every family dinner where he'd painted me as the scattered wife who couldn't handle adult responsibilities. Every friend who now looked at me with pity, wondering how Derek managed with such a young wife. Amanda Morrison wasn't just his mistress, she was his client. The Morrison account that had required all those overnight trips, weekend meetings, and urgent deadlines. Derek had been billing his affair to the company, and worse, he'd been promoted last year specifically because of his exceptional client relations with Morrison Designs. I opened a new browser window and did what any responsible adult would do, I researched. Amanda Morrison, 28, owner of Morrison Designs. Married to Dr. James Morrison, a pediatric surgeon. 2 kids, both under 5. Her Instagram was full of family photos and motivational quotes about women supporting women and living authentically. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so devastating. I found James Morrison's profile next. He looked exactly like the kind of man who worked 80-hour weeks and trusted his wife completely. The kind of man who probably had no idea his wife was texting Derek photos while he was saving children's lives. My phone buzzed. Derek again. Did you find those files? Sarah said you never sent them. I'd completely forgotten about the Morrison contract. The files were sitting right there on his desktop, mocking me. Sorry, I couldn't figure out how to access your work folders, I typed back. Another lie, but this one felt empowering. Let him think his irresponsible teen mom wife was too stupid to navigate a computer. Jesus, Sarah had to pull them from her backup files. Do you realize you almost cost me this account? The account he was literally sleeping with. I had to bite my lip to keep from laughing. I'm sorry. I tried my best. Just overnight the laptop first thing tomorrow, okay? And make sure you get insurance on the package. I can't afford to have you lose it. There it was again. The assumption that I'd mess up, that I couldn't handle a simple task. Except now I knew why he was so eager to tear down my confidence. Cheaters needed their partners to feel worthless. It made the betrayal easier to justify. I spent the rest of the evening taking screenshots. Every message, every photo, every cruel comment about me. I saved them to a folder labeled Emma's art projects because I knew Derek would never look there. Then I cleared the browser history and closed the laptop. But I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing with possibilities, each one more satisfying than the last. By morning, I had a plan. Derek wanted to call me irresponsible? Fine. I'd show him exactly how responsible I could be. Starting with a phone call to Dr. James Morrison. But first, I had a laptop to overnight. After all, Derek was going to need it for his work. Especially after I made sure Amanda's husband knew exactly what kind of business they'd been conducting. I smiled as I printed the shipping label. For the first time in months, I felt like myself again. I stared at Dr. James Morrison's office number for 3 hours before I finally dialed it. Morrison Pediatric Surgery, this is Linda. My throat went completely dry. Hi, is Dr. Morrison available? This is regarding his wife Amanda. Is this a medical emergency involving Mrs. Morrison? No, it's personal. Very personal. There was a pause. Dr. Morrison is in surgery until 4. Can I take a message? I almost hung up. Almost chickened out and pretended this whole thing was just a bad dream. But then I remembered Derek's voice from Sunday dinner, asterisk, some people mature faster than others. Asterisk, the condescending smile. His family's laughter. Please tell him that Derek Chen's wife called. He'll want to speak with me. I'll try again after 4. I hung up before she could ask any more questions, my heart pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. What was I doing? This was insane. I was about to destroy 2 marriages, possibly end Derek's career, and for what? Revenge? Petty satisfaction? Emma pulled on my sleeve. Mama, hungry. I looked at the clock, 1:30 p.m. I'd been so consumed with planning Derek's downfall that I'd forgotten to feed my daughter lunch. The irony wasn't lost on me. Maybe I really was as irresponsible as he said. But as I made Emma a grilled cheese sandwich, cutting it into perfect triangles the way she liked, I thought about all the lunches Derek had missed. All the bedtime stories he'd skipped for, client dinners. All the school events he'd blamed me for, forgetting to put on his calendar. I wasn't irresponsible. I was overwhelmed, trying to be 2 parents while he played house with Amanda Morrison. My phone rang at 4:17 p.m. This is Dr. Morrison. You called about my wife? His voice was exactly what I'd expected, calm, professional, completely unprepared for what I was about to tell him. Dr. Morrison, my name is Sarah Chin. My husband Derek he's been having an affair with Amanda for over a year. Silence. Long, terrible silence. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Your wife and my husband. They've been having an affair. I found emails, photos, messages going back 14 months. I thought you should know. Another pause. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Smaller. Are you certain? Amanda travels frequently for work, but she would never. The Morrison account, I said gently. That's how they met. Derek works for Pinnacle Marketing. He's been billing the company for their hotel rooms. I heard him take a shaky breath. In the background, someone was paging Dr. Morrison to room 302. I need to see proof, he said finally. I can email you screenshots. But Dr. Morrison? I'm not the only person I'm planning to tell. I wanted you to hear it from me first because you deserve better than finding out the way I did. Who else are you planning to tell? This was it. The moment where I either committed fully to my plan or backed down and spent the rest of my marriage being called an irresponsible teenager. Everyone, I said. Everyone who watched my husband humiliate me while he was cheating. His family, our friends, his coworkers. I'm done being the problem in our marriage when I wasn't the one breaking our vows. Dr. Morrison was quiet for so long I thought he'd hung up. Send me the proof, he said finally. And Mrs. Chen? I'm sorry. For both of us. After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen staring at my phone. I'd just lit the first match. There was no going back now. Emma waddled over with her stuffed elephant. Mama, okay? I picked her up and held her tight. Mama's going to be okay, baby. Mama's going to be just fine. But first, I had some emails to send. The screenshots took me 2 hours to organize and send. By the time I hit send on Dr. Morrison's email, my hands were steady for the first time in days. Emma was napping, Jake was watching cartoons, and I was systematically dismantling my husband's life one forwarded message at a time. Derek called while I was making dinner. Did you send the laptop? His voice had that edge it got when he was stressed about work. Of course. Tracking number is on the kitchen counter. I stirred the pasta sauce, amazed at how normal I sounded. How's Milwaukee? Exhausting. 3 client meetings back to back. I probably won't be home until Friday night. Milwaukee. According to his messages with Amanda, he wasn't within 200 miles of Milwaukee. They were at some boutique hotel in Dork County, the same one where we'd spend our second anniversary. That's too bad. Jake has his preschool play on Thursday. You know I can't help my travel schedule, Sarah. We've been through this. We had been through this. Dozens of times. Me asking him to prioritize family events, him explaining why work had to come first, me eventually apologizing for being unreasonable. The same script we'd been following for 2 years. I know, I said, watching the sauce bubble. I was just mentioning it. Look, I have to go. Amanda's calling about the Morrison project revisions. Amanda was calling, all right. Probably from the bathroom of their romantic getaway suite. Tell her I said hi, I said sweetly. Dead silence. Why would you, what? Nothing, I just meant tell your client I hope the project goes well. I could practically hear him trying to figure out if that was suspicious or if his paranoid wife was just being weird again. Have a good meeting, honey. After he hung up, I checked my email. Dr. Morrison had responded to my screenshots with a single line, can we talk tomorrow after my surgeries? This is. I need time to process. I was answering him when my phone rang again. Unknown number. Hello? Is this Sarah Chen? A woman's voice, tight with anger. My stomach dropped. Yes? This is Amanda Morrison. I think we need to talk. Of all the scenarios I'd imagined, this wasn't one of them. Amanda calling me directly, her voice shaking with what sounded like fury. I glanced at Jake, still absorbed in his show, and walked into the kitchen. I'm listening. What the hell do you think you're doing? Her composure cracked completely. You sent my husband those screenshots? Are you insane? I sent your husband proof that you're sleeping with mine. I thought he deserved to know. You destroyed my family. Do you understand that? My kids, my marriage. I destroyed your family? The audacity was breathtaking. You've been having an affair for over a year. You destroyed your own family. Derek told me you were unstable, but this is. Derek told you I was what? She stopped, probably realizing she'd said too much. But it was too late. The words hung between us like a weapon I could use later. Amanda, I said, surprised by how calm I sounded, did you really think there wouldn't be consequences? You've been laughing at me for months. Calling me his little wifey while I packed his suitcases for your romantic trips. Those messages were private. Those messages were evidence. And Dr. Morrison isn't the only person who's going to see them. Another silence. When she spoke again, her voice was different. Calculating. What do you want? Money? I can pay you to keep this quiet. The offer hung in the air between us. Money would solve a lot of problems. Money would make leaving Derek easier, securing a lawyer simpler. But money wouldn't give me back the confidence Derek had systematically destroyed. Money wouldn't undo those family dinners where I'd been painted as the irresponsible child wife. I don't want your money, Amanda. Then what? I smiled, even though she couldn't see it. I want everyone to know exactly who the irresponsible ones really are. The call with Amanda left me shaking, but not with fear, with adrenaline. She just confirmed everything I needed to know. Derek hadn't just been cheating, he'd been actively poisoning her against me, calling me unstable while playing the role of the long-suffering husband with an immature wife. I was still processing her desperate offer to pay me off when my phone buzzed with a text from Derek's sister Michelle. Asterisk K, can you call me when you get a chance? It's about Sunday dinner. Asterisk. My blood went cold. Had word already gotten back to Derek's family? It had only been a few hours since I'd sent those screenshots to Dr. Morrison. Unless. I dialed Michelle's number, trying to keep my voice steady. Sarah. I'm so glad you called. Michelle's voice was different than usual, less of the polite distance I'd grown accustomed to. I owe you an apology. An apology? For Sunday. For laughing when Derek called you. You know. That wasn't okay. I'd been thinking about it all week, and I realized how awful we must have sounded. I almost dropped the phone. Michelle was apologizing? Michelle, who usually acted like I was barely old enough to babysit her precious nephews. Thank you for saying that. The thing is, Michelle continued, and I could hear her choosing her words carefully. I was talking to my friend Jen yesterday. You remember Jen from my book club? She works at Morrison Designs. My heart stopped. Morrison Designs. Amanda's company. She mentioned seeing Derek there a lot lately. Like, a lot. And she said he was always with the owner, that woman Amanda. Jen thought it was weird because most of their client meetings happen at Pinnacle's offices, not on site. The room started spinning. Derek's affair was already creating ripples I hadn't anticipated. People were noticing. People were talking. Sarah? Are you there? I'm here, I managed. Look, I don't want to start family drama, but is everything okay with you and Derek? Because if he's giving you a hard time about being irresponsible while he's out doing God knows what. Michelle trailed off, but the implication hung heavy between us. She suspected. Maybe she'd suspected for a while. Michelle, I said slowly, what if I told you Derek wasn't just giving me a hard time? What do you mean? Before I could answer, my email chimed. Then chimed again. And again. Can I call you back? I need to check something. Of course. But Sarah? Whatever's going on, you don't deserve to be treated like a child. You're an amazing mother, and anyone who says otherwise is blind. After we hung up, I opened my email with trembling fingers. 3 new messages, all in the last 10 minutes. The first was from Dr. Morrison, ** Amanda is packing a bag. She says she's going to her sister's house but won't tell me where Derek is staying. I think she's warning him. I'm sorry, I confronted her as soon as I saw your screenshots. **. The second was from a number I didn't recognize, ** Mrs. Chen, this is Linda from Dr. Morrison's office. The doctor asked me to send you his personal cell number. He says it's urgent. **. The third made my hands shake so violently I nearly dropped my phone. It was from Derek's work email, ** Sarah, I need you to call me immediately. Amanda says you've been harassing her and making threats. What the hell is going on? **. I stared at that last email, reading it 3 times before the full impact hit me. Amanda had flipped the script. Somehow, in the span of 2 hours, I'd gone from the wronged wife exposing an affair to the unstable woman making threats. My phone started ringing. Derek's number. I let it go to voicemail, then immediately played the message. Sarah, pick up your damn phone. Amanda is hysterical, saying you're trying to destroy her marriage with fake evidence. I don't know what kind of breakdown you're having, but you need to stop this right now before you embarrass both of us. Call me back. Fake evidence. Breakdown. Embarrass both of us. Even caught red-handed, Derek was still trying to make me the problem. But he'd made one crucial mistake. He thought I was still the same woman who would shrink at his disapproval, who would apologize for having feelings, who would believe his gaslighting over my own eyes. I wasn't that woman anymore. I scrolled through my contacts until I found the number I was looking for. Derek's boss, Mr. Patterson. The same Mr. Patterson who'd praised Derek's exceptional client relations at the company Christmas party last year. It was time for Mr. Patterson to see exactly what those client relations had cost the company. And this time, I wasn't going to let anyone paint me as the irresponsible one. I drafted a carefully worded email to Mr. Patterson, attaching selected screenshots that showed Derek billing personal trips with Amanda to the company account. But before I could hit send, my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw a woman I didn't recognize, mid-30s, blonde, expensive-looking coat. My stomach dropped. Amanda Morrison was standing on my front porch. Mommy, door. Jake called from the living room. I took a deep breath and opened the door, keeping the chain lock engaged. Amanda. We need to talk. Her eyes were red-rimmed, but her jaw was set with determination. Face to face. I think we covered everything on the phone. Please. Her voice cracked slightly. My husband wants to take my kids. He's already called a lawyer. Derek is furious and blaming everything on you being unstable. This is spiraling out of control. The word unstable hit like a slap. Even now, even caught in his affair, Derek was painting me as the crazy wife having a breakdown. You should have thought about your kids before you started sleeping with my husband. I know, okay? I know I screwed up. But Derek told me you two were basically separated, that you were just staying together for the kids. He said you were more like roommates, that you treated him like a paycheck instead of a husband. My hands clenched into fists. He told you what? He said you were immature, that you blamed him for everything wrong in your life. That you made him feel guilty for working so much when you couldn't even handle basic household responsibilities. Each lie hit harder than the last. Derek hadn't just cheated, he'd created an entire fictional version of our marriage to justify his affair. Amanda thought she was saving him from a neglectful, childish wife. Amanda, look at me. I gestured around our house through the crack in the door. Does this look like the home of someone who can't handle responsibilities? I've been raising our children alone while he's been with you. I've managed everything, bills, schedules, doctor appointments, school events, everything. Her confidence wavered. But he said. He lied. About everything. Just like he lied to me about working late, about business trips, about client dinners. Did you really think you were the only one he was deceiving? Before Amanda could respond, my phone started buzzing. Derek again. Then immediately after, a text, * Amanda told me she's at your house. If you're harassing her in person now, I'm calling the police. You're proving everything I said about your mental state. *. I showed Amanda the message. See? Even now, I'm the problem. Not the cheating husband, not the woman who helped him cheat. It's the crazy wife who discovered the affair. Amanda's face went pale as she read Derek's text. He's going to call the police on you? He's going to try to make me look unstable and vindictive. That way, when this all comes out, everyone will think I made it up or I'm having some kind of breakdown. I looked at her directly. The same way he convinced you I was a terrible wife who deserved to be cheated on. The pieces were clicking into place behind Amanda's eyes. She was realizing that if Derek could lie so elaborately about his marriage, what else had he lied about? If he could manipulate her into believing I was the villain, what did that say about his character? Oh my God, she whispered. He's going to do the same thing to me, isn't he? Make me the unstable mistress who seduced the poor married man. I nodded. Unless we control the narrative first. What do you mean? I glanced back at Jake, still safely occupied with his cartoons, then looked at Amanda with new resolve. I mean, it's time people heard the truth from both of us. Amanda and I stared at each other through the crack in my door, the weight of Derek's manipulation settling between us like a third person. Her perfectly applied makeup was streaked with tears, and for the first time since this whole nightmare began, I felt something unexpected, sympathy for the woman who'd been sleeping with my husband. I can't stay here, Amanda said, glancing nervously at her car. If Derek really is calling the police. He's bluffing. He can't call the police on me for exposing his affair. but even as I said it, doubt crept in. Derek was smart, calculating. If he was threatening police involvement, he had something planned. My phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Derek, it was Michelle. Asterisk Sarah, call me now. Derek just called mom saying you're having a mental breakdown and harassing his clients. The whole family is freaking out. Asterisk. My blood turned to ice. He was already 3 steps ahead, poisoning his family against me before the truth could spread. By the time anyone saw the evidence of his affair, they'd already be convinced I was an unstable wife fabricating stories. Amanda, get in your car and leave. Now. I started to close the door, but she pushed against it. Wait. What did that text say? I showed her Michelle's message, watching her face crumble as she read it. He's doing exactly what you said he would, she whispered. Making us both look crazy. Which is why you need to go. If Derek shows up here and finds you. He won't show up. He's still in Door County, probably planning his next move. Amanda wiped her eyes, smearing her mascara further. Sarah, I need to tell you something. About Derek's boss. I froze. Mr. Patterson? Derek isn't just billing the company for our hotel rooms. He's been falsifying entire project reports. The Morrison account? Half of those client meetings never happened. He's been padding hours, inflating expenses, claiming conference fees that don't exist. The information hit me like a physical blow. Derek wasn't just a cheating husband, he was committing fraud. Potentially serious, career-ending, criminal fraud. Why are you telling me this? Because when this all comes out, he's going to blame everything on me. Say I seduced him, manipulated him into falsifying reports to spend more time with me. He's already setting up both of us to take the fall. Amanda's voice grew stronger, more determined. But I kept records too. Emails, receipts, documentation. I can prove the fraud was his idea. Before I could respond, headlights swept across my front yard. A car was pulling into my driveway, a car I didn't recognize. Are you expecting someone? Amanda asked, panic creeping into her voice. I peered through the window. A police cruiser. Oh my god, he actually called them, I breathed. Amanda went white. I have to go. If they find me here. There's nowhere to go. They've already seen your car. My mind raced. 2 officers were getting out, approaching my front door with the casual confidence of people responding to a routine domestic disturbance call. The doorbell rang, followed by a firm knock. Ma'am? This is Officer Martinez with Westfield PD. We received a call about a domestic disturbance at this address. I looked at Amanda, then at Jake, who had finally looked up from his cartoons with confused 4-year-old eyes. Emma was still napping upstairs, blissfully unaware that her father was trying to have her mother arrested for exposing his affair. Mommy, who's that? Jake asked. The knock came again, more insistent this time. Derek had just escalated this beyond family drama or workplace gossip. He'd involved law enforcement, betting that his word as a successful businessman would carry more weight than mine as the irresponsible teen mom he'd spent 2 years discrediting. But he'd made one crucial miscalculation. I wasn't alone anymore. Amanda had just handed me the ammunition I needed to destroy not just his marriage, but his entire carefully constructed life. I took a deep breath and opened the door. Good evening, officers. I'm Sarah Chen. Officer Martinez was younger than I'd expected, probably early 30s, with kind eyes that immediately went to Jake peeking around my legs. His partner, Officer Walsh according to his nameplate, was older and looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Mrs. Chen, we received a call from your husband reporting that you've been making threats against a business associate and behaving erratically. He's concerned for your mental state and the safety of your children. The words hit exactly as Derek intended them to. I could see it in Officer Walsh's expression, the assumption that this was just another domestic situation with an unstable wife acting out. My mental state, I repeated carefully. And what exactly did my husband tell you I'd done? He said you'd been sending threatening messages to one of his clients, showing up at their home, and making accusations about their business relationship. Officer Martinez glanced at Amanda's car in my driveway. Is there someone else here with you? Amanda stepped into view behind me, her streaked makeup probably confirming every word Derek had told them about erratic behavior and confrontations. I'm Amanda Morrison, she said quietly. I think I'm the client he was referring to. Officer Walsh's eyebrows went up. Ma'am, did Mrs. Chen threaten you or make you feel unsafe? I held my breath. This was it. Amanda could corroborate Derek's story, paint me as the unhinged wife who'd shown up at her house making wild accusations. It would be her word and Derek's against mine, and I'd already been cast as the immature, irresponsible one. No, Amanda said firmly. She didn't threaten me. She told me the truth about my affair with her husband. The silence that followed was deafening. Officer Martinez looked confused, while Officer Walsh's expression shifted from routine annoyance to genuine interest. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Martinez asked. Derek Chen and I have been having an affair for 14 months, Amanda continued, her voice getting stronger. His wife discovered evidence of it today and contacted my husband. She didn't threaten me, she exposed me. I watched both officers recalibrate their entire understanding of the situation. This wasn't an unstable wife harassing an innocent client. This was a woman who discovered her husband's infidelity and done exactly what any rational person would do. So when Mr. Chen called to report threatening behavior, Officer Walsh began. He was trying to discredit his wife before she could tell anyone else about the affair, Amanda finished. Which is exactly what I came here to warn her about. Officer Martinez looked between us, then down at Jake, who was still clinging to my leg and staring up at the uniformed strangers in our doorway. Mrs. Chen, have you made any threats against Mrs. Morrison or your husband? No. I sent proof of their affair to Mrs. Morrison's husband because I thought he deserved to know. Then I started planning to tell Derek's family and coworkers, because I'm tired of being called irresponsible and immature while he's been cheating on me. And Mrs. Morrison, you came here tonight because Derek called me saying his wife was having a breakdown and making up stories about us. But then I realized he was setting us both up to look unstable so no one would believe us when the truth came out. Officer Walsh rubbed his forehead. So this is essentially a domestic dispute involving adultery, not threats or harassment. There's more, Amanda said, looking at me. Derek's been committing fraud against his company. Billing personal expenses to corporate accounts, falsifying reports. I have documentation. The officers exchanged glances. What had started as a simple domestic call was rapidly becoming something much more complicated. Ladies, Officer Martinez said finally, I think we need to have a longer conversation about this. And someone might want to contact Mr. Chan and inform him that filing a false police report is a criminal offense. Officer Martinez was in the middle of explaining how filing false reports worked when my phone started ringing. Derek's number flashed on the screen, and all three adults stared at it like it might explode. Answer it, Officer Walsh said. Put it on speaker. My hands were trembling as I swiped to accept the call. Hello? Sarah, thank God. I just heard the police came by. Are you okay? Are the kids safe? Derek's voice was perfectly calibrated, concerned husband, worried father. If I hadn't read his messages calling me unstable, I might have believed he actually cared. We're fine, Derek. The officers are still here, actually. A pause. Good, good. Look, I know this whole situation with you harassing Amanda has gotten out of hand, but we can fix this. I've already talked to her husband, explained that you've been under a lot of stress. You talked to Dr. Morrison? Amanda stepped closer to the phone, her face pale. Another pause, longer this time. Amanda? What are you? Why are you at my house? I came to talk to your wife about the lies you've been telling both of us, Amanda said, her voice carrying clearly through the speaker. Like how you told me Sarah was neglectful and immature, while you told everyone else I was just a client. Officers, Derek's voice took on a different tone, professional and concerned. My wife has been struggling with postpartum depression since our youngest was born. Amanda Morrison is one of my most important clients, and Sarah has been fixated on our working relationship for months. I was hoping to handle this privately. Postpartum depression? I almost laughed. Emma is 2 years old, Derek. And I don't have postpartum depression. I have a cheating husband. Sarah, please don't do this in front of the police. You're not thinking clearly. Mrs. Morrison has already confirmed the affair, Mr. Chen, Officer Martinez interrupted. She's also mentioned some concerns about business fraud. Dead silence. For the first time since this whole nightmare began, Derek was completely speechless. What did she tell you? Enough, Amanda said. Derek, I kept records of everything. Every fake meeting you billed to the company, every padded expense report, every conference that didn't exist. When this comes out, I'm not going down with you. Amanda, you can't be serious. After everything we meant to each other. What we meant to each other? Amanda's voice rose. You were setting me up to take the blame for your fraud. Just like you tried to make Sarah look crazy for exposing us. I watched Officer Walsh taking notes, his expression growing more serious by the minute. This wasn't just adultery anymore, it was potential criminal fraud, filing false police reports, and possibly more. Derek, I said quietly, the kids are listening. Jake's right here. Daddy? Jake had been quietly absorbing everything, and now his small voice carried through the phone speaker. When you coming home? The silence stretched so long I thought Derek had hung up. When he finally spoke, his voice was different. Smaller. Soon, buddy. Daddy's coming home soon. But we all knew that wasn't true. Officer Walsh was already asking Amanda about the documentation she'd mentioned, while Officer Martinez was calling something into dispatch. Derek's careful house of cards was collapsing in real time. Sarah, Derek said finally, we need to talk. Privately. Before this goes any further. I looked at Amanda, at the officers, at Jake's confused face. No, Derek. I think we're way past private conversations. Because I was done being the irresponsible one in this marriage. I hung up on Derek and immediately regretted it. Officer Walsh was still taking notes, Amanda was crying again, and Jake was asking why Daddy sounded mad. But the silence felt like power. For the first time in 2 years, I'd ended a conversation with Derek instead of letting him control the narrative. My phone started buzzing immediately. Text after text. Asterisk, don't do this, Sarah. Think about the kids. Asterisk. Asterisk, Amanda is lying about the fraud. She's trying to save herself. Asterisk. Asterisk, I'm driving back tonight. We'll fix this. Asterisk. Asterisk, you have no idea what you're starting. Asterisk. That last message made Officer Martinez look up from his radio call. Mrs. Chen, could that be interpreted as threatening? Before I could answer, Amanda's phone started ringing. She glanced at the caller ID and went white. It's my husband. James. She looked at me desperately. I don't know what Derek told him. Answer it, Officer Walsh said. We need to understand the full scope of what's happening here. Amanda's hands shook as she put the call on speaker. Hello? Amanda. Dr. Morrison's voice was ice cold. I just had a very interesting conversation with Derek Chin. He says you're having some kind of breakdown, that you've been stalking his wife and making up stories about an affair to cover your own professional failures. My stomach dropped. Derek was playing the same game with Dr. Morrison that he tried with the police, painting the women as unstable while positioning himself as the reasonable victim. James, that's not. He had very specific details, Amanda. About your recent performance issues at work, your erratic behavior, how you've been obsessing over his family. He showed me concerning messages you sent about his wife. Amanda looked panicked. What messages? I never sent him anything about Sarah. But I was already pulling up Derek's laptop screenshots on my phone, scrolling through his sent folder. There, messages to Dr. Morrison's email address that I'd missed before. Messages from Derek's account, but signed with Amanda's name. Dr. Morrison, I interrupted, this is Sarah Chin. Could you read me exactly what those messages said? Who is this? Derek said his wife was. Dr. Morrison, please. Just read me one of the messages. A pause. Fine. Quote, James, I'm worried Derek's wife might do something dangerous. She's been showing up at our offices making wild accusations about Derek and me having an affair. I think she needs professional help before she hurts someone. End quote. Amanda's face went white. I never sent that message. James, I swear on our children, I never sent anything like that. But I was staring at my phone screen, at Derek's sent folder, at messages sent to Dr. Morrison's email from Derek's account but formatted to look like forwards from Amanda. Messages designed to make Amanda look obsessed and unstable while making Derek appear concerned and professional. Officers, I said quietly, I think you need to see this. I showed them Derek's sent folder, the fabricated messages, the timestamps that proved Derek had been setting Amanda up for weeks. Not just since I discovered the affair, he'd been planning his exit strategy long before that. Officer Martinez studied the screen. Mr. Chen has been impersonating Mrs. Morrison in communications with her husband? And probably with his own family, his boss, anyone who might believe Amanda's side of the story, I realized. He's been discrediting both of us preemptively. James? Amanda's voice was barely a whisper. Do you understand what this means? Derek has been manipulating both of us. Those messages weren't for me. Dr. Morrison was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Amanda, are you with the police right now? Yes. And with Derek's wife. James, I'm so sorry. The affair is real, but everything else, Derek's been lying to everyone. Mrs. Morrison, Officer Walsh said, stepping closer to the phone, we're going to need you and Dr. Morrison to come to the station to file statements about these forged messages. This isn't just adultery anymore. As if summoned by those words, my phone rang again. Derek, calling back. But this time, I wasn't the only one who wanted to talk to him. I stared at Derek's incoming call, but Officer Walsh held up his hand. Don't answer yet. Dr. Morrison, are you still there? I'm here, James's voice came through Amanda's speaker, tight with controlled anger. We need you to call Mr. Chen directly and confront him about those forged emails. We'll record it as evidence. Mrs. Chen, you'll answer your husband's call on a three-way connection so we can document his responses. My heart hammered against my ribs. You want me to trap him into confessing? We want to give him the opportunity to tell the truth, Officer Martinez corrected. The forgery of those emails is a felony. If he's been impersonating Mrs. Morrison to manipulate her husband, that's identity theft and fraud. Amanda was nodding frantically. James, please. Call Derek. Ask him directly about those messages he showed you. Make him explain how he got them. Within minutes, the officers had set up a conference call system on their radio equipment. I could hear Derek's phone ringing through the static, then his voice, cautious now instead of controlling. Dr. Morrison? I wasn't expecting to hear from you again tonight. Derek, I need you to walk me through those messages Amanda supposedly sent about your wife. The timeline doesn't make sense. A pause. What do you mean? The first message is dated 3 weeks ago, but according to my wife, she only found out about your working relationship today. How was she warning me about your wife's behavior 3 weeks before your wife even knew about the affair? The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. Jake tugged on my pajama pants, and I absently smoothed his hair while my entire future hung on Derek's next words. Amanda was concerned about Sarah's mental state for a while. She noticed erratic behavior during our business meetings. What business meetings? Dr. Morrison's voice was sharp now. Amanda told me tonight that half your reported meetings never happened. That you've been billing fake hours to your company. James, you can't believe anything Amanda's saying right now. She's trying to save her own career by blaming me for Derek. Dr. Morrison cut him off. I'm looking at the email headers on these messages. They were sent from your IP address, not Amanda's. Dead air. Through my living room window, I could see neighbors starting to peek out at the police cars in my driveway. Mrs. Patterson from next door was walking her dog suspiciously slowly, clearly trying to eavesdrop. Derek? Dr. Morrison pressed. Do you want to explain how messages supposedly from my wife were sent from your computer? There's been some kind of technical error. The messages are signed with Amanda's name, but they use phrases and terminology she's never used. Professional help and dangerous behavior, that's your language, Derek, not hers. Officer Walsh was writing furiously in his notepad. Amanda was crying again, but quietly now, like she was finally understanding the full scope of Derek's manipulation. Furthermore, Dr. Morrison continued, his surgeon's precision cutting through Derek's panic. I called Pinnacle Marketing 20 minutes ago. Your boss had some very interesting things to say about your recent expense reports. My blood froze. You called Mr. Patterson? Dr. Morrison contacted your husband's employer while we were setting up the call, Officer Martinez explained quietly. We needed to verify Mrs. Morrison's claims about the fraud. Derek's voice came back through the speaker, higher pitched now. James, whatever Patterson told you, I can explain. Can you explain billing the company for a weekend conference in Door County that doesn't exist? Or claiming client dinner expenses every night you were supposedly in Milwaukee, when the company's GPS tracking shows your company car never left the Door County area? The walls were closing in, and Derek knew it. When he spoke again, his voice had changed completely, no more manipulation, no more control. Just desperation. Sarah, please. You have to understand. I never meant for it to go this far. Derek's voice through the police radio sounded like a stranger, broken, pleading, nothing like a competent man who'd called me an irresponsible teen mom just days ago. Sarah, please. You have to understand. I never meant for it to go this far. Officer Walsh motioned for me to respond, but I couldn't find words. This was the man who'd systematically destroyed my confidence, who'd made me question my own competence while he was stealing from his company and forging emails in his mistress's name. How far did you mean for it to go, Derek? I finally asked. I was going to end things with Amanda. I was going to come clean about everything. But then you found those messages, and I panicked. Amanda stepped closer to the radio. You were going to end things? You told me last week that you were planning to ask Sarah for a divorce. The officers exchanged glances. This was getting more complicated by the minute. Amanda, that's not. I never said that, Derek's voice cracked. You said you were waiting for the right time, that you needed to make sure the kids would be okay. You made me believe you were leaving her. Amanda's composure finally shattered completely. You were never going to leave, were you? You were just going to keep stringing both of us along. Through the speaker, I heard Derek take a shaky breath. I was confused. The affair, it wasn't supposed to mean anything. Wasn't supposed to mean anything? I found my voice, and it was stronger than I'd heard it in months. You ruined 2 marriages, committed fraud against your company, and tried to have me arrested. For something that wasn't supposed to mean anything? Sarah, I can fix this. I'll quit Pinnacle, we'll move somewhere new, start over. With what money? Officer Martinez interjected. Mr. Chen, we've been in contact with your employer. They're freezing your accounts pending a full audit. And Dr. Morrison is pressing charges for the forged emails. The silence that followed felt like the end of the world. In the span of 6 hours, Derek had lost his job, his marriage, his mistress, and potentially his freedom. The man who'd spent 2 years making me feel like an incompetent child had destroyed his own life through lies and manipulation. My phone started buzzing with text messages, not from Derek this time, but from Michelle. Asterisk mom just called. Derek told her you're having a breakdown and the police are involved. The whole family is coming over. Asterisk. Then another, asterisk Sarah, whatever's really happening, we're on our way. Don't let Derek gaslight you anymore. Asterisk. And another, asterisk dad's calling a family meeting. He says Derek's story doesn't add up. Asterisk. I looked up at the officers. Derek's family is coming here. His parents, his siblings. They think I'm having a mental breakdown. That might actually work in our favor, Officer Walsh said. We can explain this situation to them directly, show them the evidence. No more, he said, she said. But I was already dreading it. Derek's parents had never liked me, had always thought their successful son had married beneath him. Now they were racing over here believing Derek's lies about my mental state, probably planning an intervention or discussing custody arrangements. Amanda's phone rang again. Dr. Morrison. Amanda, I need you to come home. Now. Before Derek gets back to town. I've called my attorney, and she says we need to document everything before he can destroy more evidence. What about the police statements? We'll handle those tomorrow. Right now, I need to know what else he might have access to. Financial information, business contacts, anything he could use to implicate you further. The call ended, and Amanda looked at me with something between gratitude and terror. I have to go. But Sarah, thank you. If you hadn't been brave enough to expose this, he would have kept manipulating all of us. After Amanda left, I sat in my living room with Jake curled up against me, waiting for Derek's family to arrive with their accusations and interventions. Emma was finally awake upstairs, calling for Mama, blissfully unaware that Daddy might be going to jail. Officer Martinez was still taking notes. Mrs. Chen, what Derek did tonight, the false police report, the attempt to have you portrayed as mentally unstable, that shows a pattern of psychological abuse. You might want to consider filing for a restraining order. A restraining order. Against my husband. The father of my children. But as I heard cars pulling into my driveway, Derek's family, arriving en masse to deal with what they thought was my breakdown, I realized something had shifted inside me. I wasn't afraid anymore. Let them come. Let them see the evidence. Let them learn who Derek really was. Because I was done being the irresponsible one in this family. The convoy of cars in my driveway looked like a funeral procession. Derek's parents, his sister Michelle, his brother Tom, and even his Aunt Carol, who I'd only met twice. They moved toward my house with the grim determination of people preparing for an intervention. Officer Martinez was finishing his paperwork when the doorbell rang. Mrs. Chen, would you like us to stay while you speak with them? Please. I smoothed Jake's hair as he pressed closer to my side. I have a feeling I'm going to need witnesses. Derek's mother, Patricia, was the first through the door, her face a mask of concern mixed with barely concealed irritation. She took in the police officers, Amanda's lingering perfume in the air, and my tear-streaked face with a practiced assessment of someone used to cleaning up messes. Sarah, sweetheart, she began in that tone she reserved for talking to children and dogs. Derek told us she'd been having a very difficult time. We're here to help. Mom, Michelle said quietly, maybe we should listen to what Sarah has to say first. But Patricia was already in full crisis management mode. The important thing is getting you the support you need. Derek mentioned that you've been struggling since Emma was born, having some paranoid thoughts about his work relationships. Mrs. Chen, Officer Walsh interrupted, your daughter-in-law has been the victim of a sophisticated campaign of psychological manipulation. Your son has been. Excuse me, Derek's father Robert cut in, his voice carrying the authority of a man used to boardroom confrontations, but who are you to comment on our family situation? Derek explained that Sarah has been making false accusations against one of his clients. The client confessed to the affair, I said quietly. She was just here. Amanda Morrison admitted to everything. The room went dead silent. Patricia's concerned expression flickered with confusion. That's impossible, she said finally. Derek would never. Derek has been billing his affair to his company as business expenses, Officer Martinez said, consulting his notes. He's also been forging emails to make Mrs. Morrison appear unstable to her husband. These are felony charges. Michelle stepped forward, her face pale. Sarah, is this why you seemed so upset at dinner on Sunday? When Derek was making those comments about you being irresponsible? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with another text from Derek, asterisk don't let the police turn my family against me. Tell them about your postpartum depression. They'll understand why you're confused. Asterisk. I held up the phone so everyone could read it. This is what your son sent me 30 seconds ago. Still think I'm the one who's confused? Tom, who'd been silent until now, looked at his parents with growing alarm. Did Derek actually tell you Sarah had postpartum depression? Because I've seen her with the kids dozens of times, and she's never seemed anything but completely competent. He said she'd been having episodes, Robert said, but his voice was less certain now. Paranoid thinking, making accusations. Mr. Chen, Officer Walsh interrupted, your son called in a false police report tonight, claiming his wife was making threats. When we arrived, we discovered evidence of adultery, corporate fraud, and identity theft. Your daughter-in-law is the victim here, not the perpetrator. Patricia sank into my couch, her composed facade finally cracking. But Derek said, he was so concerned about Sarah and the children. My phone rang again. Derek's number, but this time Michelle held out her hand. Let me talk to him, she said grimly. I want to hear his explanation directly. As Michelle answered Derek's call, putting it on speaker without asking permission, I realized that everything was about to change. Not just my marriage or Derek's family relationships, but the entire carefully constructed narrative Derek had built about who we all were. And for the first time in 2 years, I wasn't afraid of what people would discover about me. I was afraid of what they'd discover about him. Derek, Michelle said into the phone, I need you to explain something to me. If Sarah is having a breakdown, why are the police treating her like a victim instead of a suspect? The pause before Derek answered told us everything we needed to know. Derek's voice came through Michelle's phone speaker, and for the first time in 2 years, he sounded small. Michelle, you don't understand the whole situation. Sarah's been under a lot of stress. Cut the bullshit, Derek. Michelle's voice was ice cold. I'm sitting in Sarah's living room with Mom, Dad, Tom, Aunt Carol, and 2 police officers. They've just explained that you've been committing fraud and having an affair for over a year. So I'm going to ask you one more time, is Sarah having a breakdown, or are you? The silence stretched so long I thought he'd hung up. When Derek finally spoke, his voice cracked completely. I never meant for any of this to happen. Patricia made us sound like she'd been physically struck. Robert's face went gray. This wasn't the confident, successful son they'd raised, this was a man whose lies had finally caught up with him. Derek Michael Chen, Patricia's voice shook with fury, did you or did you not have an affair with that Morrison woman? Yes. The word was barely a whisper. And did you steal money from your company? It wasn't stealing, it was just. I was going to pay it back. And did you call the police on your wife to cover up your own crimes? This time, Derek didn't answer at all. Michelle looked at me with tears in her eyes. Sarah, I am so sorry. We all owe you the biggest apology of our lives. But I was watching Robert, who had gone from confused to furious to something else entirely. He was staring at his phone, scrolling through what looked like news articles. Derek, Robert's voice was deadly quiet, I just looked up Pinnacle Marketing. There's already a statement on their website about an employee being terminated for fraudulent expense reports. Is that you? Dad. Answer me. Is my son the employee they're referring to? Yes. Patricia started crying, not the delicate tears of a concerned mother, but the raw sobs of someone whose world had just collapsed. Tom was pacing by the window, muttering curse words under his breath. Derek, I said finally, Jake keeps asking when you're coming home. What should I tell him? The question hung in the air like a challenge. For 2 years, Derek had painted me as the irresponsible parent, the one who couldn't handle difficult situations. Now I was the only one in the room calm enough to think about our children. I don't know, Derek whispered. Sarah, I don't know. Officer Martinez stepped forward. Mr. Chen, we need you to return to Westfield immediately. Dr. Morrison has filed charges for identity theft and fraud. Your employer is cooperating with our investigation. And your wife has grounds for a restraining order based on tonight's events. A restraining order? Patricia looked up at me with swollen eyes. Sarah, surely you wouldn't. Mrs. Chen, Officer Walsh said gently, your son tried to have your daughter-in-law arrested for discovering his affair. He spent months undermining her confidence and reputation to hide his own crimes. A restraining order is the least of his problems. Michelle hung up on Derek mid-sentence and turned to me. Sarah, what do you need? From all of us? How do we fix this? I looked around the room, at Derek's family, finally seeing me clearly for the first time in years. At the police officers who believed me when my own husband tried to paint me as unstable. At Jake, who was still pressed against my side, trusting me to handle everything like I always did. I need you to remember this moment, I said quietly. The next time someone calls a woman irresponsible or immature or unstable, I need you to remember that sometimes the most responsible thing you can do is refuse to be quiet about the truth. And as Emma's voice drifted down from upstairs calling Mama, I realized something had fundamentally changed. I wasn't Derek's irresponsible teen mom wife anymore. I was just Sarah. And that was enough.